Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. To open a barbecue shop next to a ramen shop. It's safe and profitable. The summer moonlight spilled into a small courtyard where two children, a boy and a girl, sat on the steps. They looked quite young, probably around 6 years old. They were chatting idly. Barbecue. Grilled meat. Something like that. Kurenai tilted her head cutely and asked tentatively, shouldn't it be to become Hokage? That's many people's dream. Anime and manga. Hearing this, Seryu shook his head like a rattle drum. What's so good about being Hokage? You work yourself to death for so little pay. It's not as profitable as opening a barbecue shop next to a ramen shop. And opening a shop next to a ramen shop ensures safety. What's so great about being Hokage? It seemed powerful and influential. But Seryu knew very well that it was a mess. Only those hot-blooded types would go all out to become Hokage. Even if someone paid him, he wouldn't do it. Kurenai poked her chin with her index finger, looking very cute, and asked doubtfully, but Konoha is very safe now, and the competition for barbecue shops is fierce. As far as I know, Konoha already has several, and their food is quite good. It's only safe for now, Seryu muttered to himself, then explained, whether there's competition or profit doesn't matter. The main thing is being able to open a shop next to a ramen shop, that's the key. Kurenai. Not considering competition, not considering profit, then what's the point? Even though she had been with Seryu for 2 months, she still found some of his thoughts and actions hard to understand. For example, for some unknown reason, Seryu hung a sign reading, Shino Academy, on his door. He sat cross-legged on the floor, seriously claiming to be sensing some kind of space shuttle gate. She didn't understand it, but she had been deeply shocked. She had once suspected Seryu had a few screws loose, but fortunately, he seemed normal most of the time, though he would occasionally blurt out things she didn't quite understand. Kurenai blinked, looking very adorable, her bright red eyes fixed on Seryu. But do you have money? Opening a shop requires a lot of money. At the mention of money, Seryu's face fell. No. A single coin can trip a hero. Dreams are dreams precisely because they're hard to realize. Kurenai's eyes darted around, and she giggled. Then become a ninja. Genin can take on missions and get paid well. Once you save enough money, you can open your shop. I get it now. Seryu looked at Kurenai, who had clearly revealed her true intentions. He rubbed her slightly upturned, soft black hair and said, feigning sternness. Tell me, did Uncle Shinku send you to do ideological work on me? Becoming a ninja? Too dangerous. Martial arts films. Look at the current time. The third great ninja war is about to break out. Is this a good time to become a ninja? She swatted away Seryu's mischievous hand, feeling a bit guilty and not daring to look directly at him. No, I just. Unable to find a good excuse. Kurenai pursed her lips, looking pitiful, and decisively played the emotional card. Actually, it's like this. Tomorrow is registration day for the Ninja Academy, and I want you to come with me. If I go alone, I'll be nervous. To get Seryu to attend the Ninja Academy with her, Kurenai decided to make a big sacrifice. She blushed and stammered. At worst, I can call you Oni-chan. She had noticed Seryu always wanted her to call him Oni-chan. She wondered what kind of strange hobby that was. Still, for the pocket money her father had promised, she decided to go through with it. Of course, she truly did want to go to school with Seryu. Seeing Kurenai's cute expression, Seryu couldn't help but chuckle inwardly, though his face remained serious. I'm older than you, so I'm naturally your older brother. Kurenai snorted softly. Anime and manga. Liar. I'm taller than you, so I'm the older sister. Then she put on a stern face and glared at him. Are you going or not? If you don't go, I won't call you anything. Of course I'm going. I naturally have to agree to my little sister's request. Seryu chuckled, then paused, drawing out the sound. However, I'm the older sister, Kurenai argued, annoyed by his teasing. However what? Seryu raised his index finger. I want half of your pocket money. Kurenai was stunned. You, how did you know? I heard it yesterday. Darn it, you're so mean, Seryu. Did you already decide to go to the ninja academy and were just messing with me? Not at all. I only agreed because my cute little sister asked me. HMPH. Liar. I'm not talking to you anymore. Watching the sulking Kurenai leave, Seryu couldn't help but smile. Sitting alone on the steps, looking up at the full moon in the sky, Seryu sighed and mumbled with emotion. Becoming a ninja isn't good, but not becoming a ninja is even worse. He sighed, full of melancholy. Seryu had been in this world for 2 months now. Nothing to say, really, just your average Naruto fanfic orphan. Anime and manga. He woke up in the Yuhi household, adopted by Yuhi Shinku. Why not in an orphanage? This was closely related to Seryu's striking red hair. In a certain ocean-themed world, red hair was impressive, and those who didn't show respect often suffered. In this world, some red-haired individuals were also incredibly powerful, tracing their bloodlines back to the sages. That's right, Seryu was believed to be a survivor of the Uzumaki clan, so he naturally received special treatment. Moreover, he was rescued by Shinku and brought back to Konoha, so of course he stayed with the Yuhi family. Red-haired people weren't unheard of in this world, but someone going from severely injured and near death to bouncing around energetically overnight was rare. People wouldn't believe there wasn't something special about him. As for whether Seryu was actually from the Uzumaki clan, who knew? Anyway, Seryu knew that his injuries didn't heal because of some Uzumaki constitution. It was simply because the system wouldn't let its host die like that. That's right, the system. Like many transmigrators before him, Seryu also had a system after arriving here, but this one was so unreliable it left him completely unprepared. It happened like this. Seryu still remembered the first day after transmigrating. To help Seryu get familiar with Konoha, Shinku had arranged for Kurenai to show him around. At that time, Seryu was just walking down the street when a system prompt suddenly rang out in his mind. Achievement Soul King system loaded. This system will strive to help the host achieve the title of Soul King. As the future Soul King who governs the 3 realms, the host will use his power to maintain the balance of the 3 realms and solve the problems of all beings within them. This is a grand undertaking for the benefit of all realms, and also the responsibility of the one who rules over them. Host, please report immediately to Shino Academy, activate the system, and begin your legendary journey toward becoming the Soul King step by step. Quote. Hearing the strange voice in his mind and seeing the text appear before his eyes, Seryu subconsciously looked around. He saw several ninja in green flak jackets with Konoha headbands. He couldn't help but frown in confusion. System, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Ding. This system has no errors. Host, please report to Shino Academy as soon as possible. Seryu. To be continued. Chapter 2. The system from another anime. What should I do? I'm in the Naruto world. Where am I supposed to find the Shino Academy from Bleach to activate this thing? Anime and manga. And the stupidity doesn't end there. Even if it can't be activated, ever since the first notification, it dings at midnight every day. When asked, it just repeats that there's no error. Pure noise. Extremely annoying. Just like now. Ding. This system's 61st reminder. Host, please do not slack off. Please report to Shino Academy as soon as possible to activate the system and achieve the Venerable of the Soul King early, fulfilling your responsibility as the Soul King who governs the three realms. Listening to the system's voice and seeing the text appear again, Seryu was furious, grinding his teeth. I'm in the Naruto world. Where am I supposed to find Shino Academy to activate your dumb system? And what the hell is, achieve the Venerable of the Soul King, and govern the three realms as Soul King? Anyone who's watched Bleach knows the Soul King is a scam. He was chopped into a limbless torso and sealed away. Even pyramid schemes aren't this shady. Legendary life. More like a torso life. Even after 2 months, Seryu was still irritated by it. After cursing it out in his heart, he finally felt a bit better. This idiotic system, to be honest, transmigrating into the Naruto world and ending up with a system from Bleach. Seryu couldn't tell if it was a good thing or a bad thing. The good thing is the system can't be activated. The bad thing is also that it can't be activated. How is that not depressing? Of course, as someone with a system, not trying to activate it wouldn't be right. Maybe it was one of those setups where you travel between two worlds. With that in mind, Seryu made many attempts over the past 2 months. He named his room Shino Academy, trying to trick the system. He sat cross-legged, attempting to sense some space-time shuttle gate. As expected, nothing happened. This is the Naruto world. Where is he supposed to find the actual Shino Academy to activate this thing? Anime and manga, completely ridiculous. Aside from saving him from dying at the beginning, this idiotic system is no better than air. It doesn't even qualify as decoration. To make it worse, it dings on time every day just to harass him. Stupid system. He cursed coldly, then chose to ignore it. This thing is useless. I can't rely on it. From now on, I'll have to count on myself. To be honest, when he first realized where and when he was, Seryu panicked a little. He even thought that being an ordinary person wasn't so bad. At least he wouldn't be sent to the battlefield. The Third Great Ninja War was a meat grinder where even cage-level ninja could fall. Not to mention ordinary ninja. They were just numbers, cannon fodder. Seryu didn't think his small body, without a cheat or an active system, could survive a war. It would be better to open a shop next to Ichiraku Ramen. If he played it safe, maybe he could survive until the Boruto timeline. A wife, some kids, a warm home. That wouldn't be too bad either. But Ichiraku Ramen doesn't exist yet, and he has no idea where it will be built in the future. Plus, opening a shop needs money. Where is a little kid supposed to get money? No connections either. Plagiarize some novels from his previous life. Start a cultural takeover of the Naruto world. Forget it. His school essays in his previous life were never even praised by his teachers. Without money, he couldn't move an inch. A single coin can trip a hero. That's true in any world. Of course, that idea of living as an ordinary person came after realizing he couldn't activate the system. Now, Seryu had changed his mind. After these 2 months of living together, Seryu had come to view Shinku and Kurenai as family. He didn't want either of them to meet a tragic end. Shinku dying in the Nine Tails attack. Kurenai being snatched by some spiky-haired guy. Absolutely not. The Naruto world is a place where the strong decide everything. If he wanted to change those outcomes, he couldn't do it without strength. Reluctantly, he could only enter the Ninja Academy and become a ninja. So what if I'm a transmigrator with no cheat or active system? I can still make a name for myself in this world. Stupid system, get lost. Seryu refused to believe that someone who knew the plot couldn't make it in this world. Knowing the plot is his cheat. As for the system, PFF'd. Time to sleep. The alarm rang on time. Midnight. Time to go to bed. Tomorrow was Ninja Academy enrollment day. Since he had decided to take this path, Seryu wouldn't slack off. Who knew? He might even be a genius. Martial arts films. After all, red hair could mean Uzumaki blood. Anyone who's watched Naruto knows that besides Kurama, Naruto's other cheat is the Uzumaki physique. Throughout the entire series, Naruto was ridiculously durable. He could spam Rasengans all day and still be full of energy. Unlike a certain famous chakra gauge, Hitaki Kakashi, use a technique once and he's out. Totally not comparable. Morning. At the dining table, Shinku looked at Seryu with a hint of surprise. His usual serious face even showed a slight smile. You've made up your mind. Not long ago, this kid was completely against becoming a ninja. Now, he was going on his own. Sure enough, words from a peer work better than from an adult like him. Seryu nodded seriously. I can't keep eating your food and using your things, can I? I'm part of the Yuhi family now. Becoming a ninja means I can earn money and help support the household. Shinku smiled. I'm not so poor I can't even feed you, kid. But going to the Ninja Academy and making new friends is a good thing. There was a 90% chance this kid was a survivor of the Uzumaki clan. If he didn't become a ninja, that would be a waste of talent. This was also a mission given by the third Hokage, to guide this child onto the path of becoming a ninja. He had put in a lot of effort for this. Seryu shrugged. Just think of it as me watching over Kurenai. With me around, no one will bully her. I am the older brother, after all. Kurenai, nibbling on her breakfast, puffed out her cheeks and looked dissatisfied. What do you mean? I'm clearly the older sister, okay. And just now, doesn't count. Just now, she had called Seryu, Oni-chan, to fulfill their agreement from last night, and her dad overheard. She was furious. Shinku glanced at his daughter and gave a rare fatherly smile. She called him, Oni-chan, just a moment ago. Why deny it now? Girls' moods change way too fast. He didn't say anything and smiled at Seryu. Then I'll leave Kurenai to you, her older brother, to look after. To be honest, aside from sometimes doing things he couldn't understand, Seryu was usually very reliable. He had a maturity beyond his age. Some experiences force people to grow. I will. Seryu nodded, then raised an eyebrow at Kurenai. The meaning was clear. See. Even your dad confirmed it. I'm your older brother. Why am I the younger sister? Kurenai's small face was full of defiance. Even her own dad said that. Was it just because she had been forced to say, Oni-chan, earlier? Her lips pouted in frustration, almost able to hang a water jug, and she muttered. I'm clearly the older sister. She decided, no matter what, she would make Seryu call her, older sister, voluntarily. Earlier didn't count. Soon, the three finished breakfast. Led by Shinku, they headed to the Ninja Academy. Not long after, the three arrived at the gates of the academy. Today was enrollment day. Parents and children filled the area in front of the academy. Seryu scanned the adults and kids around him and muttered to himself, the timeline in the original story is such a mess. I wonder how many familiar faces I'll see. The Naruto timeline was just like his system. Both were the kind of things that made you want to complain every time they were brought up. Forget it. I'll find out tomorrow once enrollment officially begins. He shook his head, deciding not to think too much. Everything would be clear tomorrow. He followed Shinku and Kurenai into the academy and went to the office to complete the registration process. However, just as Seryu stepped through the academy's main gate, a sudden ding sounded in his mind. To be continued. Chapter 3. Bugging the system. Ding. Detecting host has arrived at Shino Academy. Achievement Soul King system activating. Question mark. The sudden system notification in Seryu's mind left him filled with questions. He thought he was hallucinating. What's going on? Did the stupid system just activate? Wait, when did he arrive at Shino Academy? Is this dumb thing malfunctioning again? Just as Seryu was confused and completely lost, the system notification rang out again. Ding! Achievement Soul King system activated. As the host, the future Soul King who will govern the three realms, your starting point is crucial. Shino Academy is the Shinigami training institution of Soul Society and an indispensable part of the host's path to becoming the Soul King. Mission issued. Become a first-year student at Shino Academy. Mission reward. Spiritual pressure aptitude increased. The repeated notification and the glowing text in front of him made Seryu fall silent. This wasn't a hallucination. It just made him speechless as he sank into deep thought. This system isn't just dumb, it's clearly bugged. Ninja Academy equals Shino Academy. Fine, if that's how it wants to play, so be it. He had already given up on relying on the system and was mentally prepared to live his life with no cheats, using the system as a glorified bedtime reminder. He never expected this sudden twist. Damn it! It really is his ridiculous system. The way it activated is just clever. He knew it. Using bugs was the right idea. He just hadn't figured out the correct angle before. Ninja Academy and Shino Academy did share some common ground. Both were schools for training the next generation. It made sense. It actually made a lot of sense. Martial arts films. No, I can't be too happy just yet. What if this is a false alarm? This dumb system has always been unreliable. Plus, these are two completely different worlds. Even if the reward is issued, whether it can be used or not is a whole other matter. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Seryu reminded himself not to get carried away. He had to wait and see if the mission reward would really be given and whether it would take effect before he could relax. There was a reason he called this system idiotic. It was just too shady. He had to stay cautious. Besides, Shinigami and the Naruto world belong to different settings entirely. Just because the system activated didn't mean the reward would be useful here. And even if it could be used, it might not work the way it should. Didn't that saying go? Receiving a gift doesn't mean you agreed to it, and getting a reward doesn't mean you can actually use it. If this ended up being a false hope, Seryu would only feel more frustrated. Caution is key. Seryu thought to himself, the mission is to become a first-year student at Shino Academy. If there's a shared context, it should mean becoming a first-year student at the Ninja Academy, right? If he remembered correctly, the Ninja Academy also had grade levels. The Ninja Academy had grades 1 through 6. Shino Academy had 1st through 6th year students. There was definitely overlap. As he continued walking with Kurenai and Shinku, Seryu's mind was focused on the mission reward. Looking at the system message, Seryu muttered, "Spiritual pressure aptitude increased." Spiritual pressure is the power measurement on the Shinigami side, right? And aptitude increase probably means enhanced talent. Speaking of spiritual pressure, it was how a Shinigami's power level was gauged. It was divided into 20 ranks. The higher the spiritual pressure rank, the stronger the combat power. Rank 3 and above meant captain level. If his spiritual pressure aptitude increased, that likely meant a talent boost. Once the mission was completed, he'd see if the reward really worked. If it did, thinking of the cheat-like life awaiting him, Seryu couldn't help but grin. Hee. Hearing Seryu's strange laugh, Kurenai tilted her head in confusion. Seryu, what are you laughing about? Cough. Seryu coughed lightly, quickly shifting his expression to one of seriousness. Just thinking about getting half your pocket money makes me inexplicably happy. Kurenai stared blankly at Seryu, then pouted and snapped, I never agreed to that. Then I'll leave, Seryu shrugged. That way you won't get any pocket money at all. You're so unfair. Kurenai got flustered and tried to bargain. No, half is too much. Only 1/3. Seryu clapped his hands. Deal. Seeing him agree so easily, Kurenai suddenly realized she'd been tricked again. She raised her hand and pounced angrily. Anime and manga. Ah, hateful Seryu, you tricked me again. I'm gonna beat you up. The little girl's punches were soft and light, more like a massage. Seryu raised an eyebrow and gestured toward the people around them. Stop. People are watching. Prompted by Seryu, Kurenai noticed the stares and instantly blushed. She quickly stopped, hiding behind Shinku and shrinking her presence. She glared at Seryu with eyes that screamed, "You just wait." Seryu smiled calmly and returned a meaningful look, 1/3 of the pocket money. Kurenai understood that look perfectly. Her teeth itched with frustration. But maybe this isn't so bad. Shinku smiled slightly as he watched the two children argue. Ever since his wife passed away unexpectedly a year ago, Kurenai had changed. Probably not wanting her father to worry, she had become very mature. Being mature was good, but Shinku preferred his lively daughter. In these past 2 months since Seryu's arrival, Kurenai had slowly started to return to her old self. The enrollment process was simple and quickly completed. From today on, Seryu and Kurenai were officially students of the Ninja Academy, Class B, first year, and desk mates. As he received his Ninja Academy student ID, Seryu heard the system notification again. Ding! Mission completed, reward being distributed. Somehow, Seryu felt a subtle change in his body. It was hard to describe. Warm and somewhat comfortable. It worked. Feeling the changes, Seryu's eyes lit up with excitement. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile that gradually grew wild. The bug exploit worked. This meant, in the future, as long as he could find shared traits, he could keep using these system missions and get rewards. Achievement Soul King System. The Soul King in Bleach was a scam, reduced to a limbless torso sealed in crystal, forced to become the stabilizing pillar of the three realms. Couldn't move, couldn't speak, truly a miserable fate. Who would want to be that Soul King? But in the Naruto world, there were no such dangers. Now, Seryu had a new goal. Achieve Soul King status in Naruto. To be continued. Chapter 4. The Sibling Showdown. Watching Seryu's smile, Kurenai, who was walking beside him, once again felt like today's Seryu was doing things she couldn't understand. He had been acting completely normal just a few days ago. So why? She couldn't help but reach out and poke Seryu's smooth cheek with her small hand. She pursed her lips and asked, "Seryu, what are you smiling about again? Does getting pocket money really make you that happy? Or, are you actually looking forward to going to school?" The arrogant smile on Seryu's face faded. He snapped out of his fantasy of becoming Soul King in the Hokage world and crushing all enemies beneath his feet. Slapping away Kurenai's hand, he grumbled, "Don't mess around." Anime and manga. His skin was still delicate and tender. What if she poked him too hard? He glared at Kurenai and said seriously, "What nonsense are you talking about? Who said I'm looking forward to school? If I could just lie around doing nothing, who would bother going to school?" Kurenai tilted her head. "Then why were you smiling so weirdly? Did something good happen? Isn't it worth smiling about when you get to go to school with your cute little sister? So I'm that important?" Kurenai's face turned slightly red, clearly very pleased by his words. But being called younger sister again made her annoyed. She emphasized, "Also, I'm the older sister. Seryu wasn't as tall as her. An older sister should be taller and stronger than her younger brother." She needed to firmly establish this image in Seryu's mind. "Let me clarify. You were born in June, and I was born in May. I'm a month older, which makes me the older brother. Seryu said firmly. How could someone with a mental age over 20 call a little girl, older sister? Impossible. Absolutely not. He didn't actually know his real birthday, but he decided he had to be older than Kurenai. Kurenai pouted. But last time you. Not giving her a chance to finish, Seryu interrupted and quickly made up an excuse. Back then, I wasn't familiar with the place or the people. You didn't know me, and I didn't know you. One has to be cautious and not reveal their true identity too soon. Understand? Kurenai was briefly confused by his explanation, but she wasn't completely convinced. She crossed her arms. I don't care. I'm the older sister. Unless you can beat me. Starting today, we're ninja. Ninja settle things with strength. Whoever's stronger is the older one. Seryu burst into arrogant laughter again. You said it. He. Did she really think she could suppress him? Now that the system was activated and its rewards were effective, how could he, a cheater, possibly lose to this little girl? Ridiculous. Kurenai snorted with confidence. Of course. I'm not like you, who always goes back on his word. Once you can use your chakra, we'll have a match to determine who's the older sibling. PFF'd. Who's the older brother or sister? We'll see soon enough. Family. In her mind, she was sure to win. After all, she had already been training her chakra for half a year. And Seryu, he had been completely against becoming a ninja before and hadn't even started chakra training. He was far behind her, with no chance of winning. Seryu clapped his hands. All right, deal. Uncle Shinku, you're our witness. I'm afraid Kurenai might go back on her word. Kurenai puffed her cheeks. I won't go back on my word. Ha ha ha. Shinku couldn't help laughing as he watched the two bicker. He nodded and said, I can be the witness. But as the older brother, you should be more tolerant of Kurenai. He was well aware that Seryu most likely had a special constitution. Recovering from near-fatal injuries overnight strongly suggested he was part of the Uzumaki clan. His daughter had decent talent, but it all depended on the comparison. If Seryu was indeed Uzumaki, his future achievements would surely be impressive. Seryu nodded. Next time, for sure. Kurenai pouted again, her cheeks puffed like a steamed bun, silently expressing her disapproval of her father's statement. They hadn't even fought yet. Why was her father already siding with Seryu? She was not happy. Seeing her expression, Shinku smiled awkwardly and quickly said, sorry. Father was wrong. Please forgive me. Kurenai's mood shifted quickly. She wasn't truly angry, just a bit displeased. Hearing her father apologize, she giggled and said brightly, then I want to eat dango. Double portion. Shinku smiled and nodded. All right. Seryu glanced at her. That stuff is way too sweet. If you eat too much, you won't be a cute little girl anymore. You'll turn into a little chubby girl. Kurenai glared. No way. I'm naturally beautiful. The three of them chatted and laughed as they left the Ninja Academy. Today was just registration. Tomorrow would be the actual first day of class. On the way home, Shinku was summoned to the Hokage's office by an Anbu. Kurenai and Seryu walked home together. Watching Kurenai eat dango one bite at a time like a little hamster, Seryu couldn't help but comment, if you eat that much, you won't be able to eat lunch. And this stuff is way too sweet. Don't you get tired of it? Kurenai's cheeks were puffed as she chewed her dango. She looked adorably smug. After swallowing, she gave him a knowing look. Girls actually have two stomachs. One for sweets, and one for everything else. Then she popped another dango into her mouth. Seryu. So now biology doesn't exist. As he stared at her, Kurenai carefully moved the remaining dango behind her back and looked defensive. Anime and manga. No, you can't have even one. Quote. Quote. Was she seriously guarding her food from him? Just don't turn into a chubby little girl. HMPH, I won't. I told you, I'm naturally beautiful. Seryu suddenly had the urge to tease her. As they walked, he said casually, there's a saying, you are what you eat, and you become what you shape. I once saw a girl who ate too much dango, and eventually. He trailed off, deliberately building suspense. Gulp. Kurenai swallowed her bite. Seeing how mysterious Seryu looked, she got a little nervous. She turned into a dango. Quote. Quote. Seryu's mouth twitched. What kind of logic was that? Turned into a dango. No, no, no. He continued with dramatic tone, she turned into a fat person. From a beautiful young girl, she ballooned into several 100 pounds. Isn't that terrifying? Kurenai looked at the last two dango, suddenly hesitant to eat them. Her voice was weak. Really? But don't girls have two stomachs? How can they get fat? Who told you that girls have two stomachs? Seryu cursed inwardly, then sighed. If you eat too much, even the other stomach gets full. Kurenai patted her belly. I don't think the other one's full yet. Do you feel a little full right now? A little. That's a sign the other stomach is reaching capacity. If you eat any more, you'll really turn into a chubby little girl. Seeing Seryu's serious expression, Kurenai believed him a little. Then I won't eat any more. I don't want to become chubby. You're not eating them, right? Then I'll take them. Seryu lunged forward, bit off both remaining dango in 2 quick mouthfuls, and ran off. Quote. Quote. Kurenai froze. She looked down at the empty bamboo skewer in her hand. After a second, she exploded in rage and chased after him. You hateful Seryu. Stop right there. Give me back my last dango. To be continued. Chapter 5. Jinchuriki Reserve. After parting ways with Seryu and Kurenai, Shinku headed straight for the Hokage office building. Anime and manga. Before long, he arrived at the Hokage office and knocked on the wooden door. A firm voice came from inside the room. Come in. Shinku pushed open the door and entered, respectfully saluting the third Hokage. Hokage-sama. Hiruzen, with a pipe in his mouth, responded with a low hum. Then, smiling, he looked at Shinku and got straight to the point. How is that guy's situation? Does he show any rejection toward Konoha? As someone who might be a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, Hiruzen, as Hokage, was naturally concerned. Every Uzumaki clan member is a potential Jinchuriki. As Hokage, he had to consider Konoha's future. Shinku nodded. During the 2 months we've spent together, Seryu hasn't shown any rejection toward Konoha. But, perhaps because of his past, he's more mature than his peers and rarely opens up. Hiruzen nodded slightly. Only time can heal the wounds in his heart. Give him more care and love, so he can forget his past traumas and truly come to love this village. Shinku replied seriously. Understood. I already treat him like family. Hiruzen smiled. It seems you're getting along well. That's good. After a short pause, his tone grew serious as he brought up another topic. During this time, have you confirmed whether he is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan? This was crucial. If Seryu was indeed a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, he would be given focused training and nurtured as the next Jinchuriki following Uzumaki Kushina. This was all for Konoha's future. At the mention of this, Shinku thought for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. Besides that one time, Seryu hasn't shown any other special traits. Also, he doesn't have much ambition and doesn't want to become a ninja. When I tried to get him to refine chakra, he kept making excuses. Chakra volume was one of the effective ways to identify whether someone was a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. A month after taking Seryu in, Shinku had attempted to get him to refine chakra, but Seryu refused, saying he didn't want to become a ninja. That gave him quite a headache at the time. Losing his parents to ninja. For a child that age, emotional trauma is unavoidable, Hiruzen said, already familiar with Seryu's background. He took a puff from his pipe and slowly exhaled. The fact that he enrolled in the Ninja Academy means he's overcome that emotional barrier. You've done very well. A faint smile appeared on Shinku's serious face. I didn't do anything. It was Seryu's own decision. He wants to become a ninja to help support the household. He's a very good child. Hiruzen nodded. He is indeed a good child. Earning his trust shows how sincerely you treat him. Tapping the desk, Hiruzen said gently, continue to observe, but don't pressure him. Whether or not he's a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, since he's joined Konoha and you consider him family, treat him well. Shinku bowed respectfully. Yes, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen waved his hand. You may go. After Shinku left, Hiruzen looked down at the information on his desk regarding Seryu and murmured, recovering from near-fatal injuries overnight. Even if he isn't from the Uzumaki clan, there's something unique about him, a powerful life force. It all depends on your future performance. I hope you're a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. That would ease many worries. Konoha won't mistreat you. Anime and manga. Not just anyone could become a Jinchuriki. The required chakra volume alone eliminated 99% of Konoha's ninja. The current Jinchuriki was Uzumaki Kushina, so there was no urgent concern. However, the lack of a successor still weighed on Hiruzen's mind. If Seryu really was a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, he could fill that gap. Returning from the Hokage office. As soon as Shinku arrived home, he saw his daughter sitting on the sofa, looking a bit down. He couldn't help but ask curiously, Kurenai, what's wrong? Kurenai pointed at Seryu, puffing up her cheeks in anger. It's all his fault. He bullied me again. Shinku was speechless but not surprised. He'd be shocked if Seryu didn't bully Kurenai for a day. Rubbing his temples, he asked, Seryu, what did you do to upset Kurenai this time? Seryu answered boldly, I'm doing a good deed. Eating too many sweets will turn her into a little chubby girl. It's for her own good. Shinku, do you think I believe that? He immediately took back what he said earlier about Seryu being more mature than his age. This kid could be quite mischievous. But maybe that was a sign he was starting to open up. I don't need you to think for me, Kurenai said angrily, her temper flaring again. Even if I become a little chubby girl, I'll still be a cute little chubby girl. Seryu spread his hands and made a face. I don't believe it. Wah, you're making me so mad, I'm going to beat you up. Uncle Shinku, look, Kurenai is being naughty again. This won't do. She's not ladylike at all. She chased. He ran. She couldn't catch him, and he started complaining. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Yes, harmonious. Watching the two chase each other in the living room, Shinku felt both amused and warm inside. This is what a home should feel like. But before things got out of hand, he stepped in. All right, you're going to wreck the house. I think I understand what's going on. I'll give you some extra pocket money this month, Kurenai. Seryu gets none. Kurenai stopped, her red eyes blinking. Really? Shinku nodded. Of course. When have I ever lied to you? Kurenai's mood instantly turned sunny, and she gave a radiant smile. Father, you're the best. Then she raised her delicate brows at Seryu, a gesture she had learned from him. It meant, I have it, you don't. HMPH, I won't share. Go ahead and be jealous. Tisk. Seryu couldn't help but chuckle. He just enjoyed teasing this doll-like little girl. Honestly, having a younger sister was pretty fun, a good feeling. A beautiful, Cute younger sister with no blood relation, who wouldn't like that? Just then, Shinku thought of something and said to Seryu, Seryu, tomorrow's the official opening day of the Ninja Academy. While the school also teaches chakra refinement, since I'm free today, let me guide you first. Seryu didn't refuse. Instead, he looked eager. Okay, Uncle Shinku. He wanted to verify the rewards he received from the system. Spiritual power aptitude could be considered a type of innate talent, but the term came from the Bleach world. Would it work in this world? And what effect would it have? No one could say without testing. Maybe refining chakra would reveal some clues. It had to be tried. To be continued. Chapter 6. Terrifying. Let's go to the backyard. Seeing Seryu didn't refuse, Shinku smiled and led him to the backyard. I'm coming too. Kurenai followed along, eager to witness her younger brother Seryu's talent firsthand, so she could size up and surpass her rival. Anime and manga. She wanted to be the big sister. The three of them arrived in the backyard, and Shinku began explaining in detail. Generally speaking, chakra is formed by mixing spiritual energy and physical energy in equal parts. Physical energy comes from the cells in your body, drawn from the 130 trillion cells making up a person. Spiritual energy, on the other hand, is developed through mental growth, learning, and willpower. It's not wrong to say chakra is a combination of the two, but to be more precise, the direct combination results in stamina. Chakra is produced by converting stamina. Since everyone has stamina, that means everyone can generate chakra. The difference lies in how quickly or slowly someone can do it, which reflects talent. Especially the time it takes to form chakra for the first time, that's a direct measure of someone's potential. Shinku explained everything very clearly. And since Seryu was a transmigrator, he already had some concept of chakra. So it wasn't hard to understand. Seryu asked with interest, fast or slow? Then, how long does it usually take a normal person to produce chakra for the first time? What about someone considered a genius? Since the refining speed was a way to measure talent, he needed a baseline to evaluate himself. Shinku smiled. Kurenai had asked the same thing before. As expected of siblings, it takes a normal person about 10 days to half a month to form chakra for the first time, up to a month at most. If it takes more than that, they're not really suited to be a ninja. For a genius, it might only take a few days. The faster they generate chakra, the more gifted they are. For example, he pointed at Kurenai and smiled. Kurenai took just over 2 days. The fastest I've heard of is Tsukumo Hataki's son, Kakashi Hataki. He managed it in under a day. Seryu was speechless. Kurenai is actually a genius. And the famous Kakashi Hataki, the legendary Mr. Worldwide, did it in under a day. Kakashi really was a genius as a kid, though he turned into a mess later from reading too many adult books. The lesson here: don't be a pervert, or it'll make you weak. Another reason found for Kakashi's downfall. Kurenai was originally a little proud after being used as a positive example by her father, but Seryu's words made her explode. What do you mean by that? Why wouldn't I be a genius? Quote. Seryu's strange reaction left Shinku a little speechless. Shouldn't the main focus be on Kakashi? The method to generate chakra is. Shinku then taught Seryu the correct process and smiled. Any other questions? He was actually pretty curious about Seryu's talent. There was something special about this kid. If he really was from the Uzumaki clan, then his talent shouldn't be ordinary. Shinku was quietly excited. Seryu said, I've memorized it. Let me give it a shot. As the older brother, I shouldn't lose to my younger sister. He was confident. Not to mention the system rewards, his body had already changed subtly. And just by being a transmigrator, his spiritual energy was likely stronger than kids his age. Clearing his mind, Seryu began following the chakra molding method step by step. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. After about 10 seconds, Seryu felt a faint flow inside his body. Though weak, it was real. Almost instinctively, Seryu could guide this flow through his chakra pathways as naturally as moving his arms or legs. I think I succeeded. He opened his eyes, bent his index finger slightly, and controlled the chakra within his body to release from the chakra point at the tip of his finger. A faint flash of light appeared and vanished. Chakra was indeed visible to the eye. Just look at the Rasengan, which forms a ball of high-speed spinning chakra. To make chakra visible like that, you need to either release a high amount in an instant or compress it to a single point. The chakra Seryu just produced was compressed into a point, and only enough for that one brief flash, but that flash was clearly seen by Shinku and Kurenai, who had been watching him closely. Anime and manga, both of them widened their eyes, faces full of disbelief and shock. He actually succeeded. Kurenai's mouth hung open slightly, stunned. Her dazed expression made her look even cuter, but the shock in her heart couldn't be calmed. How long was that? Did Seryu already generate chakra? Did I imagine that? It took her more than 2 days. And Seryu? Just over 10 seconds. Wasn't that gap a little too insane? Not only did he form chakra, but he could also control it to release from his fingertip. Shinku was equally shocked, but what stunned him most wasn't the speed. Sure, chakra generation in 10 seconds was already hard to believe. But the fact that Seryu could immediately control it, compress it, and release it. That was unbelievable. Was that something someone who just generated chakra could do? Terrifying talent. Shinku muttered to himself in disbelief. He picked it up instantly. This kind of natural control. He really is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. He was now 99% sure Seryu was from the Uzumaki clan, and not just any branch. He had the strongest kind of talent. There was no other explanation. To be able to control chakra with this kind of precision without any formal training, the person had to have a special physique and rare talent. For example, the Hyuga clan had naturally better chakra control than average. That was due to their unique physical traits. The Uzumaki clan were masters of Fuinjutsu, which required extremely fine chakra control. They also had special bodies. Otherwise, why would the Uzumaki clan be the strongest in sealing techniques across the entire ninja world? Seryu was someone with a special body and terrifying talent. It all made sense. Too much sense. Shinku felt like he had just seen the truth. To be continued. Chapter 7. Turns out I've been a genius this whole time. Seryu nodded and expressed his honest thoughts. It's pretty easy. The chakra is very obedient. It goes wherever I tell it to. As a transmigrator, Seryu understood just how unusual this was. In the original story, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke only began chakra control training after becoming genin. That was when they practiced things like tree climbing and water walking. Seryu had basically skipped that entire phase. The ability to control chakra precisely was a fundamental requirement for a strong ninja. Both learning and executing jutsu relied heavily on precise chakra control. The system reward for increasing my spiritual power aptitude really boosted my talent. Seryu had a strong feeling that his current talent was due to the system's reward for improving his spiritual aptitude. It had clearly paid off. I'm just going to say it straight. I'm a genius. Is that so? Upon receiving Seryu's confirmation, Shinku let out a deep breath and spoke seriously. Seryu, your talent is beyond anything I've ever seen. This also confirms something for me. You really are a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. And not just that, you're a genius among them. Anime and manga. He already saw Seryu as part of the family, and Seryu also treated the Yuhi family as his own. Seeing Seryu with such talent made him truly happy. The Yuhi family had found a real gem. Kurenai, who had recovered from her earlier shock, tilted her head and looked at Seryu. Then she asked curiously, a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. What's that? Is it a famous clan like the Uchiha or Hyuga? Shinku froze. He had gotten too excited and blurted it out without thinking. Inwardly, he cursed himself. Crap. He had never brought up his suspicions about Seryu's origins to the boy directly. Seryu didn't know anything about it. Now that it had slipped out, he couldn't avoid the topic. He wasn't sure how Seryu would take it, but this wasn't something he could keep from him forever. It had just come up earlier than planned. Originally, he had hoped to build more trust and a deeper bond before finding the right moment to explain everything. Taking a deep breath, Shinku spoke seriously, with a tinge of guilt. I'm sorry, Seryu, for keeping this from you all this time. When I brought you back to Konoha, Hokage-sama and I suspected, based on your condition, that you might be a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. Taking you in was also part of a mission given to me by Hokage-sama. But, Shinku trailed off, unsure how to explain. At first, he had accepted the mission and brought Seryu in under Hokage's orders. But after spending time together, he had come to see him as true family. Now, telling him this truth, would Seryu think he was only taken in because of a mission? That would be too cruel for a child. Even if Seryu had maturity beyond his years, he was still only 6 or 7. Shinku's heart was in chaos. He was afraid Seryu would hold a grudge and distance himself from the family. That was the last thing he wanted. It had nothing to do with Seryu's identity. He simply didn't want to lose him as family. Father, Seryu, Kurenai, noticing the tension, used her clever little brain to grasp the situation. She grew nervous too. Would Seryu leave them? She didn't want that to happen. She even made a big decision in her heart. If it would stop Seryu from leaving, she was willing to sacrifice even more. If she had to be his little sister forever, she'd accept it. Oh, that, I already knew. Seryu, on the other hand, didn't mind at all. He had overheard the conversation between Shinku and the third Hokage while he was lying in bed. He'd understood the situation clearly. Even if Shinku had taken him in because of a mission, he had truly been good to him, and it was Shinku who had saved his life. A man who saved your life isn't an enemy. Besides, he was a transmigrator. What kind of grudge could he possibly hold? He was thankful to be taken to Konoha, one of the safest places in the ninja world. He had already accepted this place as home. Would he really leave the Yuhi family over something like this? Don't be ridiculous. The dumb one was the system, not him. Seeing that the worst didn't happen, Shinku let out a small sigh of relief. Still, he was surprised. You already knew. Seryu smiled. Even though I was weak and half-conscious at the time, I heard your conversation with the third Hokage. Anime and manga, he added. Don't worry, Uncle Shinku. I'm not the type to hold grudges. I'm part of the Yuhi family now. I'm Kurenai's older brother. With such a cute little sister, even if you kicked me out, I'd still shamelessly stick around. If you really don't believe me, I'll go register the Yuhi surname tomorrow. Anyway, Seryu didn't even know what his original surname was. His past memories were blank in that area, just like Nagato and Karen. He had a given name, but no last name. Hey, maybe he really was a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. If he could exploit system bugs and also turn out to be from the Uzumaki clan, wouldn't that be too perfect? No need for that. In our family, names aren't what matter. Hearing Seryu speak so lightheartedly, Shinku completely relaxed. He rubbed Kurenai's head and chuckled. Honestly, it's all thanks to Kurenai. He took back what he said earlier once again. Seryu truly had maturity beyond his age. Now he realized something. The reason Seryu didn't want to become a ninja before might have been because he already knew the truth and felt a little uncomfortable about it. After all, if he didn't plan to be a ninja, it wouldn't matter whether he was from the Uzumaki clan or not. But as time passed and he accepted them as his family, he must have changed his mind for their sake. Just thinking about it made Shinku's heart feel warm. Kurenai was also happy. She planted her hands on her hips and declared proudly, HMPH. I'm still very important. Today, I'll reluctantly be your little sister, Seryu, but only for today. Her eyes lit up as a thought popped into her head. Kurenai began scheming. Since you've already generated chakra, let's spar tonight. If I win, I'm the older sister. If you win, you're the older brother. The whole matter of who was older had to be settled early. Given Seryu's ridiculous talent, she probably wouldn't be able to beat him for long. The difference between 10 seconds and 2 days, her clever little brain could calculate what that meant. She couldn't let him grow up first. She had to put him in his place now. Hee. She suddenly felt like a genius. To be continued. Chapter 8. Mission Impossible. Do you think I'm stupid? The little girl's idea sounded nice, but he had just extracted a tiny bit of chakra. What could he even do with it? Winning would be expected. Losing would be a total embarrassment. Getting beaten by a 6-year-old girl would be worse than getting slapped around by a monkey. But just as Seryu was about to refuse, the system prompt suddenly rang in his mind. Ding. As the future Soul King who will rule the 3 realms, the host's legendary path must be full of challenges. The host must not fear any challenge from a Shinigami. Mission released. Defeat challenger Ochiai Rumi. Mission reward. Bakudo number 1. Sai, restrain. Seryu. Who the heck was Ochiai Rumi? No clue, though. It made sense if the system treated the Ninja Academy like the Shino Academy and mistook Kurenai for some Bleach side character. Martial arts films. Not bothering to dwell on it, Seryu instantly changed his tone, as if he hadn't just been about to say no. But now that I think about it, he spoke with confidence, considering Kurenai. Uncle Shinku said if you can extract chakra within a few days, you're a genius. I did it in 10 seconds, so I'm basically a genius among geniuses. If I wait too long, it won't be fair to Kurenai. She might accuse me of cheating. So, fine, I accept. We'll spar tonight. Oh well, since the system gave a mission, how could he refuse? Even if the reward was just a low-level Bakudo, a gain was still a gain. A tiny girl. How scary could she be? Even if she'd been extracting chakra for half a year, she was still just a kid. He'd take her down in a few minutes. Really. Kurenai didn't care that Seryu clearly looked down on her. What mattered was locking in the deal to decide who was the older sibling. She placed her hands on her hips. Then it's settled. No one can back out now. Father, you'll be the witness. Shinku glanced at Seryu, smiled, and nodded. All right, I'll be the witness. Seryu rubbed Kurenai's head like an older brother giving a head pat. Kurenai, just be a good little sister. Big brother will take good care of you. Kurenai slapped away his mischievous hand and snorted. It's not decided yet. We'll see who wins. Afternoon. After lunch, Seryu continued practicing chakra extraction in the backyard. Feeling the chakra flowing inside him, he rubbed his chin and muttered, as expected, I need to build up step by step. Talent only determines the ceiling. Realizing that talent takes time. Just because I started ahead doesn't mean I can slack off and still get stronger. Probably because of his exceptional aptitude, Seryu's chakra extraction speed wasn't slow. But maybe due to his body still being immature, or because it was his first time doing this, the actual amount of chakra in his body wasn't much. He estimated it wasn't even enough to pull off an E-rank jutsu. Seryu made a judgment. I still need to let my body adjust. In the original story, Kakashi graduated at age 5 and was already at genin level. There's no way he had this little chakra. Understanding this, Seryu felt more at ease. He just needed to take things one step at a time. The system had activated and its rewards were working. That alone was enough to make him happy. He wasn't expecting instant invincibility. The system already made it clear, he would gradually walk the path of a Soul King. One step at a time. No skipping to the top. So Seryu began thinking about more practical matters, like how to beat Kurenai in their spar tonight. He had to win. Calling a little girl, older sister, was too horrifying. In the past 2 months, Seryu hadn't seen Kurenai learning any jutsu or combat techniques from Shinku. Her daily routine was mostly light training and chakra extraction. Her chakra had grown steadily. At only 6 years old, laying a solid foundation was more important than combat strength. That said, Kurenai's chakra reserves and physical strength were definitely higher than his. Anime and manga, but that was her only edge. She didn't know any jutsu or real fighting techniques, so she couldn't fully use that advantage. As for Seryu, well, back in his previous life, he had taken martial arts classes when he was bored. His combat technique might be shaky, but he had some real fighting experience. Add to that his precise chakra control, even if he didn't have much of it, that was his ace. This match, he had it in the bag. Just then, Shinku walked over, raising an eyebrow at Seryu. I've never seen you work so hard before. But overdoing it isn't good either. You've only just started learning to control chakra. Don't overexert yourself. Seryu spread his hands. I can't lose to Kurenai, right? As her older brother, I've got to save face. Then why did you agree to spar with her tonight? She's been taking it seriously, trying to figure out how to beat you. Pressure builds motivation. It's good for her and for me. Shinku chuckled and teased, I actually want to see you lose to Kurenai and call her, older sister. That'd be hilarious. Seryu's mouth twitched. That's not going to happen. After a pause, he suddenly remembered something. Oh right, Uncle Shinku, I thought of a way to use chakra. Could you tell me if it's viable? Shinku looked surprised. Oh, what kind of application? Seryu explained. Besides releasing jutsu, chakra should also be usable for direct attacks, right? Like if I release chakra from a point on impact when I strike, wouldn't that enhance the power? Shinku was visibly stunned. You thought of that yourself? Of course it was possible. Tsunade, one of the Sannin, was a master of that exact kind of technique. Seryu nodded. Just a random thought. Of course, it wasn't random. As a transmigrator, Seryu had a pretty active imagination. And this kind of chakra application was already shown in the original story. Tsunade and the Hyuga clan both used it. The only difference was their focus. Tsunade's style emphasized raw impact, while the Hyuga focused on precision targeting of chakra points. The reason Seryu asked was that he had tried it earlier, but it had no effect. He wanted some guidance from Shinku, a Jonin. Maybe he'd get a helpful pointer or two. If he could grasp the basics of this technique, it would make tonight's spar even more one-sided. Yes, Seryu was this cautious. Shinku took a deep breath and nodded. It's definitely possible. Lady Tsunade, one of the Sannin, specializes in this kind of chakra-enhanced taijutsu. But pulling it off isn't easy. You need precise chakra control, perfect timing, and the right amount of chakra output. Even I haven't completely mastered it. Knowing the theory and actually doing it were two different things. Take the Rasengan, for example. The theory is just condensing chakra into your hand, making it rotate in multiple directions while keeping it compressed. Sounds simple, right? But without a teacher, good luck getting anywhere with it. To be continued. Chapter 9. If I land this punch. So it's okay. Seryu pretended to think, then said, Uncle Shinku, I tried earlier, but the effect wasn't great. Can you help me figure out what went wrong? Shinku's expression turned serious. Try attacking the training post. I can't guarantee I'll pinpoint the issue, but I can definitely offer some advice. Alright. Seryu walked up to the training post, took a deep breath, and threw a punch. At the same time, he released chakra from his acupoints, driving the strike forward. Thud. A dull impact echoed, and the training post only shook slightly. As expected, extraordinary talent. Shinku couldn't help but admire silently as he observed Seryu's movement. Only half a day had passed, and Seryu already had a firmer grasp of chakra control. Suppressing his surprise, Shinku, as a Jonanan instructor, had sharp observation skills. He quickly picked up on a few things. Let me tell you what I noticed. After thinking for a few seconds, he said, although your chakra was released instantly, the amount wasn't enough, the impact force was weak, and the chakra wasn't condensed properly. More importantly, you subconsciously worried about hurting your fist, so the chakra you released acted more as a cushion. He looked at Seryu's right fist and smiled. It didn't hurt much when you hit the training post, did it? Is that so? Seryu thought for a moment. His fist really didn't hurt. In the original story, during Hyuga Neji's battle with Kidomaru, he constantly released chakra to deflect the enemy's attacks. That meant releasing chakra could also be used defensively. Because he was worried about injuring his hand, Seryu had subconsciously used chakra to defend rather than attack. That made perfect sense. After all, punching a wooden post wasn't the same as hitting a sandbag. Anyone would instinctively hold back. Now that he understood the problem, Seryu grinned. So what you're saying is, my resolve isn't strong enough. It wasn't that simple. Interesting. Then let's try again. He took another deep breath. This time, Seryu made up his mind, ignoring the possibility of injury. He got into position and threw a punch with everything he had. Bang! With a dull sound, the next moment, Seryu shook his right hand, pain shooting up his arm as he grimaced. Ouch! 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 Shinku, where did this clown come from? If you don't know how to do it, you don't know. What does it have to do with resolve? Should he take back what he just said again? Shinku sighed. You only heard the second half of what I said, didn't you? This technique isn't something you can master just by trying harder. I don't even know how to do it myself. If you really want to learn, when Lady Tsunade, one of the Sanin, returns to the village, I can take you to meet her and see if she's willing to guide you. Anime and manga. Although this was a chakra application technique, it was practically a secret technique. It wasn't something you could figure out through trial and error. Since Seryu had this kind of talent, Shinku didn't mind humbling himself to seek out help for the kid. If it was Lady Tsunade, paying a little would probably do the trick. Not asking her to take Seryu as a disciple, just to give some guidance on the technique. Lady Tsunade, a certain blonde older sister appeared in his mind. Seryu, a proud lover of big sisters, was immediately intrigued. As a transmigrator, how could he not meet some original story characters? Especially Tsunade. Back in his past life, Seryu really liked that blonde Oni-san. Seryu said, I admire Lady Tsunade too. If she's willing to guide me, that would be perfect. But for now, I'll keep trying on my own. Who knows, maybe I'll figure it out. Haha, alright then, I won't disturb you. Just be careful, it's not worth getting injured over. Shinku reminded him with a smile. Then he turned and left. Time to prepare dinner. Got it. Seryu responded and didn't continue practicing directly. Instead, he sat on the steps, deep in thought about how to improve this chakra attack technique. Chakra control is definitely the key, but there must be a matching method behind it. It's not just about releasing chakra, but causing an explosive burst of force at the moment of impact. Seryu realized that ever since receiving the system reward for spiritual power aptitude enhancement, his thinking had become incredibly sharp. In his previous life, he needed to pause to do basic two-digit calculations. Now, he could instantly compute three-digit problems in his head without effort. He had his own theory about this application of chakra. At the moment of attack, the chakra must surge and burst outward, creating impact similar to an internal explosion. Like a 1-inch punch, maximizing force in minimal space. The two concepts had similarities. His martial arts classes in his past life weren't a waste. His instructor had taught him the 1-inch punch. While Seryu hadn't mastered it, he understood the concept and had practiced it a little. With this theory in mind, Seryu began experimenting. For the rest of the afternoon, he practiced tirelessly, focusing on refining this chakra attack technique. Whenever he ran out of chakra, he would sit down and generate more. Once recharged, he would try again. Unknowingly, the amount of chakra he could draw out had also increased significantly. Now, he estimated he had enough to use a D-rank jutsu and still have some left. I think I've got the hang of it. After a whole afternoon of effort, Seryu began to grasp the method. His eyes lit up, and he tried one more time. He mobilized his chakra and, without hesitation, slammed his already injured and bleeding fist into the training post. At the moment of contact, chakra surged and exploded outward. Bang! Crack! With a dull thud, the training post was struck like it had been hit by a sledgehammer. Cracks spread across the surface, wood chips scattered, and the post flew backward, sliding several meters before crashing into the courtyard wall. Pain stung in his hand. His fist was raw and bleeding, but Seryu didn't even flinch. His eyes were full of excitement. I did it. It wasn't perfect, and his fist was badly injured, but it was a breakthrough. To pull this off in just half a day of experimentation, that was something else. Suppressing the joy in his heart, Seryu's lips curled into a smug smile. He, if I land this punch, Kurenai will probably cry for a long time, right? Anime and manga. Kurenai, who had been secretly spying on Seryu's training nearby, trembled. Her face turned pale as she heard his muttering. She quickly ran over, tugging on Seryu's sleeve and shaking it gently. Her eyes were full of worry. Seryu, I don't want to spar anymore. I give up. She wanted to cry but couldn't. What kind of freak was Seryu? How did he become this strong in just half a day? If she actually took that punch, it'd probably hurt for days. To be continued. Chapter 10. What's the harm? Seryu, who was focused on training, didn't notice the little girl who had been secretly watching and gathering intel on her opponent, until she finally walked over. Seeing her pitiful expression, Seryu couldn't help but chuckle and ask, "When did you get here?" The little girl pouted and replied weakly, Just now. If she'd known earlier, she wouldn't have made that bet. Great. Now she had dug a hole for herself. But who knew Seryu was such a monster? Blinking her big eyes, Kurenai acted cute and pleaded, Seryu, I really give up. We don't have to spar tonight, right? You're the older brother, and I'm the younger sister. She surrendered on the spot. Even the wooden training post got cracked by Seryu's punch. With her delicate skin, she really would cry for a long time. Actually, being a younger sister didn't seem that bad. Seryu smiled, poked Kurenai's cheek, and raised an eyebrow. Heh heh, scared now. Weren't you super confident this morning? I'm scared, I'm scared. Kurenai didn't even dare to slap his hand away, and carefully asked, so we can cancel the sparring tonight? Of course. The word, can, was already at the tip of his tongue, but Seryu forcibly swallowed it back. Originally, it was just a little bet. With Kurenai surrendering, there was no risk to his status in the sibling hierarchy. He would be the older brother, and she the little sister. But, Seryu suddenly realized something strange. The system hadn't gone. Ding. Where was his mission reward? Kurenai? No, Ochiai Rumi had already surrendered, hadn't she? Why wasn't the mission complete? Could it be that he couldn't exploit bugs like this? His heart sank. Seryu called out to the system internally. System, didn't Kurenai, Ochiai Rumi admit defeat? Why isn't the reward issued? Ding. The mission is not complete. The reward will only be issued once the host defeats the challenger Ochiai Rumi. What the hell? Subduing the enemy without fighting is more impressive than brute force. If you won't give me a bonus for cleverness, fine, but now you're telling me it doesn't even count as a win. Seryu silently cursed in his heart. This system really couldn't be trusted. Ding. Please fulfill the mission conditions to receive the reward. The exchange with the system only took a moment. Kurenai was still anxiously waiting for Seryu's response. She really didn't want to cry tonight. But why was Seryu hesitating again? Anime and manga. So annoying. Quote. There was no other way. Since the system wouldn't accept surrender, Seryu had no choice but to make Kurenai suffer a little. Of course not. Kurenai's eyes widened in disbelief. Shock and confusion filled her face. Her adorable act actually failed. This didn't make any sense. What do you mean? Acting cute won't save you this time. Seryu tapped her head and pretended to be serious. A bet is a bet. Even if you surrender, it still has to happen. Besides, this is also a form of willpower training. Retreating at the first sign of adversity isn't good. For the system reward, what's the harm in making Kurenai suffer a little? It's for her own good, right? You can't give up just because things get tough. You've got to persevere. Kurenai was nearly in tears. It sounded so reasonable, but she felt strongly that Seryu was just trying to secure his place as the older brother. This was revenge. She was so mad, but she had no way to argue back. She could only stomp away and sulk in a corner. Shinku, who had just finished preparing dinner and was about to call the two for their meal, happened to hear that whole exchange and fell silent. He decided to retract his statement that Seryu had maturity beyond his age. And why was this kid suddenly doing things he couldn't understand again? He really didn't get what children were thinking these days. After dinner, the spar began as planned. In the backyard, Seryu and Kurenai stood facing each other. One was full of confidence. The other was also full of confidence. Does this girl have a trump card? Seeing this, Seryu's heart tensed. He didn't dare lower his guard. This afternoon, she was full of fear, so why was she acting like this now? Something smelled fishy. Not good. His sibling hierarchy position was at risk again. HMPH. I won't cry for long. Kurenai thought with resolve. She had already come up with the perfect plan. She wouldn't get punched by Seryu and cry for a long time. As long as she surrendered fast enough, Seryu's fists wouldn't have time to reach her. Looking at the two children standing across from each other, Shinku, serving as witness and referee, spoke up. Are you both ready? Then begin. Swoosh. After giving the command, he quickly retreated from the scene, leaving the field to the two kids. I won't let you make me cry. Kurenai shouted with determination, charging at Seryu with a serious expression. Anime and manga. Quote. Seryu didn't dare be careless. This was about his position as the older brother. The courtyard wasn't large. Kurenai ran forward, and halfway there, she tripped on something, letting out an exaggerated oof as her tiny body dramatically fell to the ground with a loud splat. She struggled to raise her head and looked at Seryu, who was still 2 meters away. With an ultra-serious tone, she said, "What powerful earth release. Seryu, you're amazing. You've even mastered earth release ninjutsu. I am no match for you. I surrender." Overnight, the injuries and fatigue from yesterday's training had completely healed. Even though he had only slept for 2 or 3 hours, he felt full of energy in the morning. Seryu wasn't sure whether this was due to the improvement of his spiritual power aptitude or if he truly had the Uzumaki clan bloodline. It was worth mentioning that after some experimentation, Seryu had already managed to use the reward he received yesterday for defeating Ochiai Rumi, Bakudo number 1, Sai, in this world. This was reasonable, as Kido and Ninjutsu had similar foundations. The only difference was the driving force, which had changed from Ryutsu to Chakra. Bakudo number 1, Sai was a basic technique for controlling Ryutsu and didn't yet involve transforming it into elemental properties. It was also likely that because it was a low-level Bakudo, Sai didn't have a corresponding incantation. Its effect was to paralyze and bind the target's limbs, restricting their movement. It wasn't particularly destructive, but it was practical and useful in combat. As for its effectiveness, that depended entirely on the user's skill and chakra control. The same technique could vary widely in power depending on who used it. Seryu still didn't know if he would be able to replicate Kido that required an incantation or involved elemental attributes in the future. He hadn't received enough rewards yet. Kurenai glared at Seryu. "Hurry up. We really are going to be late." Reading manga series. Seryu sighed. All right. The two quickened their pace, but when they arrived at the Ninja Academy, specifically first year Class B, they were spectacularly late. Another student was also late. It was a small boy wearing a track jacket, goggles, and spiky hair. He was sprinting and shouting his excuse, "I'm sorry, teacher. I was helping an old lady cross the street, so I." Realizing others were late as well, he inexplicably let out a sigh of relief and even glanced at Seryu and Kurenai with a look of fellow sufferers. Seryu looked over and instantly recognized him, muttering in his heart, "Late on the first day. Obvious signs. The future big boss, Uchiha Obito." He never expected the first acquaintance he'd meet at school would be such a heavyweight. Seryu curled his lip and maliciously guessed in his heart, but does Konoha really have that many old ladies? Could Uchiha Madara have White Zetsu impersonate them? Where would Konoha find so many old ladies to help across the street? Seryu felt maybe Uchiha Madara had White Zetsu impersonate them. Since it was the first day of school, the Chunin teacher, who had thinning hair and whose name was unknown, didn't press too much on why the three of them were late. After a light reminder to be punctual in the future, he let the three return to their seats. The Chunin teacher clapped his hands to get the students' attention. He cleared his throat and began his opening speech. "Hello, students. Starting today, you are, blah blah blah." After a motivational speech, he began his self-introduction. "I am the teacher for first year Class B. You can call me Oda Sensei." The students in the class respectfully addressed their new teacher, shouting, "Oda Sensei," in a slightly chaotic chorus. Only Seryu almost laughed out loud, barely stopping himself from blurting out, "Oda Sensei, what exactly is One Piece?" He held it in. No laughing. Oda smiled and continued, "Well then, Let's start the first class with self-introductions so that everyone can get to know each other, and I can learn more about you all. Oda glanced around, then pointed to one of the latecomers who happened to be sitting in the first seat. He smiled and said, "You go first." "Yes, sensei." Obito wasn't shy at all. He stood up and adjusted his goggles. Trying to leave a good impression on his classmates, he confidently said, "My name is Uchiha Obito. I'm 5 years old. My favorite food is ramen. I don't have many hobbies. My dream is to become Hokage." As soon as he said that, the expressions of the students in the class varied. Some were impressed, some indifferent, and some seemed to have found a like-minded friend. However, few showed disdain or mockery. After all, becoming Hokage was a dream many people had. 6 out of 10 kids probably had the same goal. Of course, having the courage to declare it so confidently in front of everyone wasn't something just anyone could do. This Uchiha kid really was something. Impressive. Seriously impressive. There are quite a few familiar faces. Sitting in his seat, Seryu looked around at the other students, trying to recognize any acquaintances. Suddenly, someone poked his waist, making his body twitch. He turned and saw Kurenai raising an eyebrow at him. Ignoring her, he reminded himself, "No whispering in class." Clap clap clap. The Chunin teacher, Oda, clapped his hands in encouragement. He was used to hearing this kind of thing. Finding online tutors. But this was the first time someone had said it with such confidence. The combination of being late and this bold declaration made Obito stand out in his mind. He smiled and said, "That's a great dream. I hope student Obito works hard." Next is, quote. One by one, the students introduced themselves. The class atmosphere remained lively, and applause continued, until a cool-looking boy stood up to introduce himself. The class fell silent for a moment, then erupted. No one could help it. His introduction could be summed up in one sentence: "My father is the Hokage, and I will surpass the Hokage in the future." He was the Hokage's son, Sarutobi Asuma. Seryu couldn't help but mock inwardly. 6 points. An essay titled, "My Father. If you're not in it, I'm not reading it." Beside him, Kurenai started poking his waist again, giving him a look that said, "Look, he's the Hokage's son, and his dream is to surpass the Hokage. Learn from him and stop obsessing about opening a barbecue restaurant next to a ramen shop." Quote. Seryu slapped Kurenai's hand away. His waist was ticklish. It really tickled. He glared at her. "Stop poking my waist." As if she had found one of Seryu's weaknesses, Kurenai was amused by his reaction and covered her mouth to giggle. Hee. To be continued. Chapter 12. Astronaut Dream. Seryu scanned the students in the classroom and indeed spotted many acquaintances with unique appearances. For example, the boy in the green jumpsuit who had just introduced himself, revealing a mouthful of white teeth and claiming his hobby was training, was Might Guy, the same person who nearly kicked the series to its end in the later parts of the original story. Behind him sat Kakashi Hatake, with white, broom-like hair and a mask covering the lower half of his face. In the front left sat a girl with short brown hair and purple markings on her cheeks, Nohara Rin. As for other well-known characters from the original work, Seryu didn't spot anyone familiar. He wondered if they were in another class, hadn't enrolled yet, or if their features simply weren't distinct enough for him to recognize without an introduction. Talented individuals everywhere. That was Seryu's evaluation of this class. Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, Seryu, scratch that, Guy, Obito, these people are my classmates, same year, same class, irrefutable proof, I saw it with my own eyes. Reading manga series. As mentioned before, the timeline in the Naruto manga was extremely chaotic, just as unreliable as the system itself. Thinking too hard about it was pointless. Especially this point in time, which was rarely mentioned in the original series. What does Kishimoto know about Naruto? When it comes to the current timeline, he probably knows less than Oda-sensei standing on the podium. And certainly less than Seryu. He had seen it with his own eyes. The introductions continued. Through them, Seryu recognized another acquaintance, Shiranui Genma. At this point, he wasn't chewing on a toothpick yet, so his features weren't very distinct, and Seryu had completely overlooked him. It wasn't until he said his name that Seryu realized who he was. Oh, and there was Ebisu, who also wouldn't be recognizable without his signature sunglasses. Of course, there were also other students with obvious features, the one with cataracts, the one with a billiard cue embroidered on their clothing, and those with the surnames Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka, and Inuzuka. This class really was full of talent. Could this have been arranged by the third Hokage? Next, it was Kurenai's turn to introduce herself. The young girl seemed a little nervous and uneasy. What she had told Seryu earlier wasn't a lie. She really was anxious about attending school alone. Her voice wasn't loud. My name is Yuhi Kurenai. I'm 6 years old this year, and my favorite food right now is dango. My dream is to become a kunoichi like Lady Tsunade of the Sanin. Clap, clap, clap. Perhaps because Kurenai was cute, the class responded with enthusiastic applause. Seryu also noticed a certain cool-looking kid, Asuma, whose eyes lit up when he saw Kurenai. Children in this world were generally precocious. They understood romance at a young age. He couldn't understand it. He couldn't figure it out. Didn't Obito, at only 13 years old, have his entire personality change because of the death of the girl he liked? From a Tsunade to someone dark, profound, and cruel. He vowed to destroy the world and create an ideal world. World peace wasn't the point. The point was whether Rin was there. Terrifying. While he was lost in thought, it was Seryu's turn to introduce himself. As a young man with a mental age of 20-something, Seryu wasn't shy. He stood up straight away. He instantly drew a lot of attention, especially from the girls, whose eyes lit up. A little red-haired Shota. Seryu began, "My name is Seryu. I'm Kurenai's older brother. My favorite foods are barbecue and grilled meat. I don't really have any hobbies, but if I had to say, eating and sleeping, and then sleeping and eating, would that count? Dreams, well, I have quite a few. My first dream is to open a barbecue shop next to a ramen shop. That way, it'll be both profitable and safe. My second dream is to have a warm family, with a wife and children, and live until I die of old age. My third dream is to become an astronaut. My grandparents would be very happy. And my biggest dream is for peace in the ninja world. That's all." Learning martial arts, Seryu sat down. The classroom, however, fell silent for a moment. The teachers and students looked at each other in confusion. What a unique self-introduction. Compared to the others, this was a clear breath of fresh air. Most people only had one dream, but you actually had 4. And none of them were related to being a ninja. What's up with that? Also, what is an astronaut? Why would grandparents be happy? And lastly, wishing for peace in the ninja world, can dreams even be that big? They didn't understand, but they were amazed. Seryu is doing incomprehensible things again. Kurenai covered her face. Couldn't he just introduce himself normally? She didn't even understand half the things he said. Ha ha. Oda let out a dry laugh. This made an even deeper impression on him than Uchiha Obito. This batch of students was incredibly unique. Seryu-kun's dreams are very good. Work hard to achieve them. Alright, you can sit down now. Quote. With dozens of people, The self-introductions alone took up the entire class period. The bell rang, and Oda announced the end of class before leaving the room. The classroom immediately became lively. Some students who already knew each other gathered to chat. Others were more aloof, sitting silently like meditating monks. Calm and composed, just like that masked, broom-haired kid. Hello, my name is Asuma. Sarutobi Asuma. The cool kid walked over to Kurenai and Seryu, clearly emphasizing the Sarutobi part. He was afraid people wouldn't know he was the Hokage's son. He glanced at Seryu and ignored him for now. Asuma then flashed what he believed was a charming smile and said to Kurenai, "You're Kurenai, right?" Facing Asuma, the Hokage's son, Kurenai merely nodded politely. Seryu gave Asuma a sidelong glance. What? Something wrong? Asuma was annoyed that Seryu interrupted. He wasn't here to talk to him. But since he was Kurenai's brother, he held back. Reading manga series. He still smiled politely. I just wanted to get to know you too. Oh. Seryu nodded. Her name is Kurenai. My name is Seryu. Hello, Asuma. We've met. Huh. Asuma rarely encountered people who didn't go along with him. He was the Hokage's son. And they talked to him like that. Interesting. Asuma gave a dry laugh and revealed his real goal. Seryu-kun, my eyesight isn't very good, and I can't see the blackboard clearly from that seat. Could I possibly swap seats with you? His real intention was exposed. Seryu was stunned. Good grief, that forward. So cringe. If he'd had even a tenth of that boldness in his past life, he wouldn't have been single for so long. Seryu looked him up and down, then acted surprised. Asuma-kun, if you're sick, go see a doctor. This isn't something you can fix by switching seats. Asuma. He was at a loss for words. Well, you're right. I'll go get my eyes checked. I'm really sorry to have bothered you too. Asuma was completely rejected and smiled awkwardly. He had no face to stay, so he left a remark and returned to his seat. He wouldn't get angry over something like this. He wasn't that petty, just a little resentful. He, the Hokage's son, made a request and actually got rejected. But it was fine. At least they didn't treat him like the Hokage's son or try to up to him. This was someone worth getting to know. And he was Kurenai's brother. He'd remember this. To be continued. Chapter 13. Study Secrets. Kurenai poked Seryu's waist, leaned in, and whispered, Seryu, do you have some problem with him? Did he make you mad? Although Seryu rarely interacted with people outside their circle, he was usually polite. So why did he seem to have an issue with Asuma, the Hokage's son? Grabbing Kurenai's mischievous hand, why was she poking his waist again? Seryu whispered, I don't have a problem. But bad eyesight really can't be solved by just changing seats. It's an illness. And if it's an illness, then he needs to see a doctor. Kurenai nodded thoughtfully. That's right. He's the Hokage's son. If he's sick, why doesn't he get treated? The girl clearly hadn't grasped the true meaning behind Asuma's earlier words. She seemed a little slow when it came to emotional cues. Who knows? People's thoughts are weird, Seryu shrugged. He glanced toward Kakashi. Look at Hitaki Kakashi, the one Uncle Shinku mentioned. It's so hot right now, and he still wears that mask. Isn't that strange? Reading manga series. Kurenai looked over too and found it odd. After thinking about it for a moment, she nodded firmly. Just like you, Seryu. Sometimes you do things others don't understand, and other people do strange things too. I get it now. Applying the logic to Seryu, she suddenly felt enlightened. So it wasn't just Seryu who behaved strangely. Other people also did inexplicable things. From now on, she shouldn't think there was something wrong with Seryu's brain. She was just behind the times. Seryu, you don't get it at all. When did he ever do things people couldn't understand? This was slander. Slander. He was perfectly normal. Since it was only the first day, there was no rush to make friends. Seryu and Kurenai chatted casually at their desks until the bell rang shortly after, signaling the next class. Oda walked to the podium, textbook in hand. He cleared his throat and began, "You've all received your textbooks, right? Turn to the first page. Today, I'll be teaching about the will of fire. This is a will, a spirit, proposed by first Hokage-sama, Senju Hashirama. It is also Konoha's most precious treasure." After a lot of blah blah blah, the other students listened intently, but Seryu grew extremely drowsy. They're just blindly promoting selfless devotion, fearless sacrifice, collective effort, and putting the greater good above all else. Even pyramid schemes aren't this bad. At least those offer some benefits first. Seryu shook his head. If someone tried this kind of sales pitch in his previous life, even elementary schoolers wouldn't fall for it. This propaganda wasn't convincing at all. They just asked people to give and sacrifice, go to the battlefield, without even mentioning any benefits. They relied entirely on that hollow phrase, "for the sake of Konoha," to make people shed their blood and sweat. This might not work in his past life, but in this world, it actually worked. The level of awareness was different, and the concept of critical thinking barely existed here. For Konoha Shinobi, the slogan, "for the sake of Konoha," was more than enough. Especially since the Hokage did act when needed and wasn't just shouting slogans. Of course, Seryu still felt it was ridiculous. He was just a kid, and they were already trying to brainwash him into sacrificing himself on the battlefield. This was messed up. Even if you want to start them young, this was too early. Over the next stretch of time, life remained peaceful. The signs of the Third Great Ninja War had yet to fully emerge. The major hidden villages were only engaging in minor skirmishes, and no large-scale conflicts had broken out yet. These weren't things a student like Seryu needed to worry about. The Ninja Academy curriculum advanced steadily, cycling through theory, physical training, chakra insights, and history. It was even more intense than elementary school in his past life. Take ninja tool throwing, for example. Would you believe they needed to apply math knowledge to calculate the trajectory arc? Fortunately, Seryu was extremely talented and learned quickly. Having completed 9 years of compulsory education and some beyond that in his past life, this was no challenge at all. His written test scores were firmly in first place, followed by Kakashi in second, with Kurenai in third. Kakashi really lived up to his title as the genius who graduated at 5 and became a Chunin at 6. Compared to the other little kids, he truly stood out. Calling him a genius wasn't an exaggeration. Reading manga series, Seryu, though, was even more of a prodigy. Aside from the reading comprehension section on the Will of Fire, where he couldn't guess the grading teacher's intended answer, he scored full marks on every other test. He completely crushed the rest of the class. On top of that, with his appearance, red-haired Shota style, cuter than the aloof, masked Kakashi, he was much more popular with the girls. His popularity in class was solidly ranked number 1, completely outshining Kakashi. There were even faint signs that Kakashi viewed him as a rival. Nearly a month passed during this time. The academy still didn't arrange any practical combat training, focusing mainly on building strong foundations. The students gradually got to know each other. As if guided by fate, bonds were silently forming between them, except for the transfer student Seryu. During a break, Obito, wearing his goggles, came over and quietly asked Seryu, "Seryu, do you have a special way of studying? We attend the same classes, so how are your grades so good? Even that arrogant guy Kakashi can't beat you. Because Kakashi and Rin were deskmates and sat right in front of him, Obito was deeply unhappy. The girl he liked was sharing a desk with someone else. Unacceptable. What was even worse was that Kakashi's grades were excellent. He had even heard Rin asking Kakashi for help with schoolwork. How could he put up with that? So, he came over to consult Seryu, the number one in their class, hoping to get some tips. Oh, it's Obito. Although Seryu didn't keep his distance from Obito, the future big boss, their relationship was nothing more than regular classmates. But seeing him come over to ask questions, Seryu didn't act standoffish either. One reason his popularity stayed high in class was because he was approachable and kind. He shrugged. You can't learn my method. Obito blinked. Why not? Seryu shook his head and sighed. Because it's talent. Talent can't be learned. You're either born with it or you're not. Obito didn't believe him. HMPH. If you don't want to say it, just say so. So stingy. Seryu smiled. But it's not like there's no way to improve your test scores. Obito's eyes lit up, and he immediately leaned in. What is it? Tell me. Do more practice problems. As long as you do enough, your scores will go up, Seryu said, his tone turning serious and deep. Why do you think Kurenai placed third on the written exams? Before Obito could reply, Seryu answered for him. It's because she did enough practice problems. Only by accumulating little by little can one succeed. Kurenai, who was nearby and overheard the words, practice problems, shuddered involuntarily. Her beautiful red eyes filled with horror, as if recalling some traumatic memory. That was hell. To be continued. Chapter 14. Exam Practice. Sounds like a scam. Not noticing Kurenai's reaction, otherwise Obito definitely wouldn't have continued the topic. His attention caught by the words, exam practice, he looked at Seryu in confusion and asked, exam practice? What does that mean? So the reason Seryu and Kurenai's grades were so excellent was, exam practice. He became curious. He wanted to improve his grades too. Seryu answered honestly, a student's essentials. 3 years of mock exams, 5 years of entrance exams, I'm going off track. In short, it's a great thing that helps you raise your scores. Finding online tutors. Seryu was genuinely worried about his sister Kurenai. How could someone who ranked first on the test have a silly sister who only scored average? Unacceptable. Kurenai had to keep up with him. The third great ninja war was like a sword hanging over their heads, ready to fall at any moment. Don't be fooled by how Kurenai survived all the way to the Boruto era in the original story. But now things were different. Because of his appearance, the butterfly effect had already started. Who knew how the future would change? The stronger Kurenai became, the safer she would be. Kurenai, who had been secretly eavesdropping with her ears perked up, shivered again after hearing Seryu's words. She thought to herself, if she hadn't asked Seryu how to raise her grades back then, maybe she wouldn't have to endure this kind of hell now. Every day after school, she had to do exam practice. A lot of it. Her grades had gone up, but the suffering behind it, only she truly understood. Obito was a brave soul, willingly stepping into hell. She was deeply moved. Obito's eyes lit up. He rubbed his hands together awkwardly and said, Seryu, can you let me see this exam practice too? I want to improve my grades. Seryu purposely showed a troubled expression. Those questions were all carefully written by me, word by word. Obito immediately understood. He waved his hand generously. Don't worry, I'm not someone who takes advantage of others. Learning advanced ninjutsu costs money, so something that can raise grades should too. Just tell me, how much? As expected of the prestigious Uchiha clan, so generous. Seryu gave him a thumbs up and praised him sincerely. After thinking for a moment, He said, "It's nothing too expensive. How about the price of AC rank ninjutsu scroll? We're classmates, so I'll give you the friendship price." Ordinary civilians also had ways to learn ninjutsu. They could borrow scrolls from the library or hire private tutors, all of which cost money. Of course, only C rank and above required payment. E rank and D rank were the most basic and could be borrowed freely from the library. Without money, you couldn't do anything. Seryu felt that making money should start from a young age. Obito thought about it and felt it wasn't expensive at all. Okay. He still had plenty of inheritance left from his parents. Let alone a C rank scroll, even a B rank would be fine. Seryu wouldn't scam him, especially since the results were obvious. They were all around the same age, same intelligence level. He refused to believe he would fall behind just because of method. A paying customer had arrived, and Seryu greeted him with a big smile. "I'll organize the questions and bring them tomorrow. I guarantee you'll be satisfied." Obito thanked him sincerely. "Then I'll leave it to you." Kurenai rested her chin in her hand as she watched the grateful Obito. Her eyes flickered with pity, admiration, and confusion. Someone actually paid money for that. Was life going too well for him? So weird. Seryu, Kakashi, Asuma, and, oh, also Guy. None of their actions made any sense. Reading manga series. Now Obito too. Was she really just behind the times? But, she still felt this wasn't normal behavior. At that moment, Asuma also leaned over. He had heard the conversation between Seryu and Obito and couldn't help but speak up. "You had something like this and didn't share. I knew it. How else could your grades be so high? So there was a trick." He, the dignified son of the Hokage. His written exam score was only 4th. That didn't make sense. His family had hired plenty of private tutors, and yet he still couldn't beat Seryu, Kakashi, and Kurenai. Wasn't that embarrassing? And how would he get Kurenai's attention like this? "Asuma, you want it too." Seryu's eyes lit up. This guy had money. The Hokage's son, after all. Still smiling, Seryu was like a walking advertisement. "You're already in 4th place without exam practice. If you train seriously, you might even surpass me and take 1st. No, I'll rely on myself." Asuma's eyes kept drifting toward Kurenai. Seeing that she was also looking at him, though, he couldn't read her expression. But he still puffed out his chest and declared confidently, "Next time on the written exam, I'll beat you and take 1st place. If you don't want it, then why join the conversation? What a waste of a sales pitch." Seryu's tone changed instantly. He said indifferently, "Then go study. I believe in you." HMPH. Asuma twitched at the corner of his mouth. Too realistic. His tone changed faster than a transformation jutsu. With a displeased snort, he said, "You might be 1st in written exams, but the practical class this afternoon is another story. I'll be number 1 there." For nearly a month, every time he wanted to talk or get close to Kurenai, Seryu would interrupt and watch him closely. It made him furious. What made him even angrier was how popular Seryu was. The girls really liked him. Even though he was the Hokage's son, he didn't get that kind of treatment. So what if he was handsome? So what if he got 1st place? He had to win back his pride. This afternoon's practical class would be his chance to defeat Seryu. Written exams meant nothing. Looks meant nothing. A ninja proved himself with strength. He would show the other girls, and Kurenai too. He, Asuma Sarutobi, was the strongest. Seryu. Oh, just you wait. Asuma took a deep breath and clenched his fists. Too infuriating. He swore he would surpass Seryu in the practical class this afternoon. With a snort, he turned and returned to his seat. "Oh right, we have practical class this afternoon. When the practical class was mentioned, Obito seemed a little less confident. He already knew what it would be: ninja tool throwing. Seryu, are you confident? Seryu sighed. Not really. I'm not very hands-on. Especially with throwing ninja tools, I miss the target a lot. It's really hard. Same here. I also miss the target when I train at home. Guess it's just something you improve through constant practice, Obito sympathized. Reading manga series. But he also secretly felt relieved. So Seryu didn't know everything after all. He gained a little confidence again and became determined to perform well this afternoon to catch Rin's attention. Seryu kept sighing. Yeah, Obito encouraged him. Just try your best this afternoon. I believe you won't do too badly. Seryu nodded. I'll try. Listening to their conversation, Kurenai opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. The missing the target Seryu referred to and the missing the target Obito mentioned were completely different things. Missing the bullseye counts as missing the target. Is that how you describe it? Seryu was too much of a bully. To be continued. Chapter 15. 9 bullseyes and 1 broken ego. The afternoon lesson was the practical session for ninja tool throwing. Standing in front of a row of wooden targets, Oda looked at the students, cleared his throat, and announced, I've already taught you the technique for throwing ninja tools. Today, let's see how much progress you've made. Of course, don't be discouraged if your scores aren't great. This is just a small practical test. So, who wants to go first? The Ninja Academy curriculum followed a fixed schedule. What classes were taught and when was all pre-arranged. The first month focused entirely on laying a foundation, such as chakra refinement and basic theory. Practical training was only introduced once students had grasped the essentials. Ninja tool throwing was one of the first and most basic forms of application, and an essential skill for all shinobi. Teacher, I'll go first. Kakashi, who ranked second in the written exam, raised his hand. Highly motivated, his competitive spirit was strong. Losing the written exam to Seryu had bothered him. He absolutely had to shine here and take the lead. Kakashi's performance was flawless. Of the 10 Senbon he threw, 6 hit the bullseye directly, 1 was very close, and the rest all landed within the target. Not a single miss. For a 5-year-old, this was an astonishing result. Even Chunin Oda was surprised. He applauded enthusiastically and exclaimed, that's a very impressive score. Even students in the upper years might not manage this. Clap, clap, clap. The class broke into applause, marveling at Kakashi's skill. Not only were his written test scores excellent, but his tool throwing technique was also strong. Truly deserving of the title of class genius. Now, everyone was curious how Seryu, who had beaten Kakashi in the written exam, would perform in comparison. Perhaps because his mask hid his expression, it was impossible to tell how Kakashi felt. In any case, he simply gave a brief reply. He glanced at Seryu, who was clapping enthusiastically, then returned silently to the crowd. Mr. Worldwide is really reliable. Seryu was indeed impressed. He wasn't perfect himself and occasionally missed the target. He couldn't afford to slack off either. Among the crowd, Guy, wearing a green jumpsuit and sporting a bowl cut, gave Kakashi a thumbs up with a grin full of shining white teeth. As expected of one of the rivals of Chosen, Kakashi. But I won't give up. Reading manga series. Yes, Kakashi subtly shifted away from him. For some reason, this strange guy had decided to treat him as a rival. Being declared a rival out of nowhere made him feel helpless. But, one of the rivals. Who were the others? Seryu. Sensei. Let me go next. I'm fired up. Guy volunteered with his usual passion. His green outfit and intense expression were a bit unique. Oda was already used to it. This class was full of eccentric talents. Alright, begin. He was certainly full of spirit, but his score was average. Guy's slightly disappointed expression showed as much. Fortunately, he was the optimistic type, convinced that he was a genius of hard work. Hard work could beat genius. He wasn't discouraged. After all, being discouraged was pointless. Unlike Obito, who missed the target with 7 of his throws. Because of nerves, he did even worse than during home practice. His eyes were brimming with tears. He was completely crushed. He had lost to Kakashi again and failed to impress Rin. He felt like a failure. He even began wondering if the exam practice Seryu mentioned could help improve practical scores. Probably not. Seryu himself said he wasn't good at practical stuff and often missed the target. Kurenai also stepped up. Her performance was solid. Only 1 miss and 4 bullseyes. That alone made her very happy. She had learned not to compare herself to the monster that was her brother. Little sisters should let big brothers be better. That was how it should be. Seryu didn't hold back in praising his lovely but terrifying sister. He rubbed her head, her hair soft and smooth in his hand. Good job. That's even better than your practice scores. Kurenai didn't resist having her head rubbed anymore. She raised her chin proudly and said, "Hee hee, of course. So, can we cut down on the cramming now?" Seryu thought it over and decided a balance between work and rest was better. No cramming today. Take it easy. Yay. Kurenai cheered, grabbing Seryu's right hand and shaking it. That damn Seryu. Someone nearby ground his teeth. He wanted Kurenai to treat him like that too, but Kurenai never paid him much attention. He wasn't her brother. Which, in a way, was a good thing. It meant he still had a chance. Determined to show off and impress everyone, Asuma stepped forward. "Sensei, is it my turn now?" As the Hokage's son, his presence naturally drew attention. Everyone looked his way. His score was excellent, second only to Kakashi, and better than Kurenai's. 5 bullseyes, no misses. The class gasped in admiration. That was close. I almost missed one. Asuma breathed a sigh of relief, satisfied with his result. He looked toward Seryu and curled his lip. I should definitely be better than Seryu. HMPH, if you're not good at practical stuff, you're guaranteed to lose. He had, coincidentally, overheard Seryu's earlier chat with Obito. What good were high test scores if they couldn't be applied? Completely useless. He was confident. Next. Seryu. Following Oda's call, it was finally Seryu's turn. All eyes turned to him. Several top test scorers had already achieved strong results. Preparing for tests. Now, the top-ranked student was up. How would he perform? Dodododo. Seryu moved fast. With a flick of his wrist, 10 Senbon flew out in rapid succession. 10 sharp sounds followed. 9 hit the bullseye, completely encircling the central point. 1 landed just 1 centimeter off. The sight stunned the teacher and the students. Their eyes widened. Gasps filled the air. Obito and Asuma in particular looked like they had taken a direct hit. This was the guy who kept saying he wasn't good at practical stuff. Both of them wore the mask of pain. All done. Even though he missed 1, Seryu was satisfied with the result. Showing off a bit felt unexpectedly great. He pretended to be calm and returned to his spot. As Seryu walked back, Obito stared at him, blankly asking, "Didn't you say you often miss the target?" Seryu nodded. "Yeah. Didn't one of them miss the bullseye?" Quote. Obito took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to punch him. So your definition of missing the target is not hitting the bullseye. You can't just bully people like this. Seryu's performance made the girls in the class even more enthusiastic. He was handsome, and his grades were excellent. A perfect match for their ideals. Some of them couldn't help but cheer and crowd around him, talking non-stop. Kurenai pouted, getting pushed aside. She felt an odd pressure. Damn it, why did Seryu have to be so outstanding? Being his younger sister was exhausting. Even worse, it felt like some girls were trying to take her Seryu and become her sister-in-law. That was absolutely not allowed. She had to stop them. This scene, however, made many of the boys in the class uncomfortable. Their expressions were sour, fists clenched tight, eyes burning with jealousy. Why did he get all the attention? Just because he had good looks and high scores? HMPH. One boy was so bitter, his eyes almost turned red. Not that they could at that age. Uchiha Ryota hated people who showed off the most. He couldn't help but sneer. A ninja relies on strength. Written exams and practical scores don't mean anything. Real combat is the true measure of strength. The Uchiha clan excels at that. Several nearby boys nodded in agreement. Exactly. Exactly. Written exams and practice lessons didn't prove anything. Real combat was what mattered. And just to be clear, they definitely weren't jealous. To be continued. Chapter 16. That's not a little girl. Seryu, with his excellent hearing, caught the comment, glanced over, and saw it was someone from the Uchiha clan, but he didn't recognize the face. Ryota, was it? A background character who never even appeared in the original series. He didn't take it to heart, but right then, a system prompt suddenly echoed in his mind. Ding. Due to the host's excellent performance, you have incurred the hostility of the noble class. As the future Soul King who will govern the three realms, also known as the candidate Soul King, there will be a reconcilable conflict with the noble class. Please defeat Shiba Masatai, a member of the Shiba clan, one of the 5 great noble families, in the next actual combat training. Mission issued. Defeat Shiba Masatai, a member of the Shiba clan. Mission reward. Hado number 4, Byakurai. Closing square bracket. Looking at the text materialized by the system, Seryu couldn't help but smile. Uchiha clan equals Shiba clan. You've got guts, system. But I like it. For the past month, the system hadn't issued any missions. Probably because life had been too mundane. Missions seemed to trigger under specific conditions. Like Kurenai's challenge back then, or this time, Uchiha Ryota's hostility. Reading manga series, Seryu had a vague grasp of how the system worked now. Missions only triggered after conflict, provocation, or some kind of external event. I wonder if I'll get more missions if I actively cause trouble. Thinking this, Seryu was already looking forward to the next practical combat class. Plus, Hado number 4, Byakurai involved elemental transformation. In this world, it would probably evolve into a lightning release technique, right? Now that was something to look forward to. As the students completed their tool throwing practice, the final rankings were posted. Seryu was still first, Kakashi second, Uchiha Ryota third, Asuma fourth. Kurenai also did well, placing 7th. Clearly, she wasn't particularly suited for hands-on work. But even though the rankings were out, class wasn't over yet. Oda went on to demonstrate a few throwing techniques. As a chunin, his basics were solid enough. Teaching these little newbies was well within his capabilities. Before long, the lesson ended, and it was dismissal time. On the way home from school, Kurenai, carrying her small bag, followed Seryu. But she was strangely quiet, occasionally frowning, occasionally pouting, deep in thought, clearly distracted. Seryu naturally noticed something was off. She was usually lively. Why so glum today? As her older brother, he felt obligated to check in. With a smile, he asked, "What's wrong?" Feeling discouraged. "Your results were fine. You've got elite Jonin potential. I'll keep training you, and you'll definitely improve." Oh. Kurenai nodded. She wasn't thinking about that at all. She was very satisfied with her results. She had long accepted that she couldn't compare to the monster Seryu. What she was actually worried about was Seryu. He was too popular. What if someone else snatched him away? It felt like something that belonged to her was about to be taken. She really didn't like this feeling. She'd felt something similar before, when her father had explained why they adopted Seryu. This time, it was even more intense. Little girl's emotions shifted like the wind. Seryu was puzzled. He reached out to rub her head. What's up with you? If it's not about your scores, then what is it? Kurenai turned to look at him, pouting. Seryu, you won't leave us, right? He paused, caught off guard for a moment, but quickly realized what she meant. He smiled gently. Of course. I've already said I won't leave you guys. Hearing this, Kurenai visibly relaxed. She held out her pinky. Then pinky swear. That's the only way I'll believe you. Seryu smiled and reached out. All right. Their two small hands hooked together, pinky swear. Hee hee. Kurenai lit up with joy. Reading manga series. She pulled Seryu forward. Let's go, Seryu. I'll treat you to dango. Mom said that if I had a little brother or sister, I should share my favorite food. Even though you're my big brother, it's still the same. Seryu smiled helplessly. Aren't you afraid of eating so much you'll turn into a little chubby girl? Kurenai glared at him. You're always tricking me. I should have believed Mom. She said girls have two stomachs. I was wrong to listen to you. From now on, I'll only believe half of what you say. Mom. Seryu paused for a moment. Then he rubbed her head again, smiling softly. If Auntie said that, then it must be true. I don't know much about girls. Then I don't need to worry about turning into a dango. You still remember that? The two of them chatted and laughed as they reached the dango shop. Kurenai went inside to buy some, while Seryu waited by the entrance. Suddenly, he heard a pair of voices getting closer. His ears twitched, and his eyes shifted toward the source. A teenage boy and girl approached. I haven't been out in so long. I only get free time once a week. Do they think I'm some kind of prisoner? Ha ha ha. Can't be helped. You are a bit special these days. That rotten old third Hokage. Don't say that so loudly. The boy had short blonde hair, energetic and cheerful, wearing a Jonin vest. He looked easygoing, though his face showed some helplessness. The girl had long red hair, wore a dress, and her delicate face was filled with displeasure and resentment. What a coincidence. Seryu instantly recognized them. The tomato and egg duo, or rather, the future parents of the protagonist. Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. He hadn't expected to bump into them here. Timeline-wise, Kushina should already be the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. He wondered if Minato had already developed the Rasengan. With his short red hair and handsome face, and standing right at the entrance, Seryu quickly drew their attention. Kushina's gaze lingered on his red hair, then on his face. She couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Oh, what a cute little girl." Red hair was extremely rare in Konoha. You could count all the redheads in the village on one hand. So naturally, Kushina was surprised. And so cute too. Seryu. The red hair, fine. But why little girl? What kind of eyesight was that? He quickly corrected her with a serious expression. Even though I'm a little good looking, if you look closely, I'm a boy. Kushina's eyes widened again in shock. Oh, a boy little girl. Seryu. He never expected to hear something like that from an adult. To be continued. Chapter 17. All redheads must be related. Right. Quote, quote. Minato was speechless. How could his girlfriend say something like that? Unlike Kushina, he had already figured out Seryu was a boy. Though, he had to admit, if this little guy grew his hair out, he might really look more like a girl. He even briefly imagined what Seryu would look like with long hair, and found, somehow, He resembled a younger Kushina. Ordering biology kits. Could it be? Suppressing that strange thought, Minato, ever the gentle type, apologized with a soft smile. Sorry about that. She's just not great with words, but she didn't mean anything bad. Kushina realized she'd messed up too, and her face turned slightly red. But with her straightforward personality, she didn't dwell on it. Instead, she burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, yeah, yeah. It's just that you're too cute, that's all. Sorry. Let Oni-san treat you to dango as an apology. Maybe it was the red hair. Maybe it was his face. Whatever the reason, Kushina felt an odd fondness for Seryu. Good-looking kids really did get special treatment in every world. I'm not mad. Seryu wasn't the type to get upset over something like this. He waved it off. As for the treat, no need. It's not like I lost anything. Seeing his calm attitude, Kushina's eyes lit up. She stepped forward and ruffled his head with a laugh. Acting like a little grown-up. Are you copying your parents? So cute. Seryu. He lightly slapped her hand away. He didn't mind patting others on the head, but he didn't like it done to him. He wasn't some toddler. Frowning, he said, Miss Oni-san, please show a little respect. Otherwise, I might start yelling. Bullying children isn't something to be proud of. Miss Oni-san. Kushina blinked at the unfamiliar form of address, then giggled again. Her earlier irritation was already gone. Hee hee, what a funny little guy. Minato smiled too. There was something a little unusual about Seryu. His behavior didn't match his age, and yet, somehow it did. It gave off a strange feeling. Not wanting to tease him anymore, Kushina smiled and asked, all right then, tell Oni-san your name. We've both got red hair, so that's fate. Seryu didn't mind interacting with the two. Building good relations was never a bad thing. My name is Seryu. You have red hair too. Are you from the Uzumaki clan? The best way to start a conversation with these two. Naturally, the Uzumaki clan. You actually know about the Uzumaki clan. Kushina's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed slightly. Wait. Are you also from the Uzumaki clan? Minato's gaze sharpened a bit. So his earlier guess was right. This little guy was also from the Uzumaki. Seryu looked at Kushina and shrugged. I don't know. But the reason I came to Konoha was that Hokage-sama thought I might be from the Uzumaki clan. Red hair seems to be one way to identify them. So when I saw you, I wondered. Meeting Minato and Kushina had been a coincidence. Their conversation was natural too, so there was no need to worry about anyone suspecting anything. It's not like he had any shady motives. At most, he just wanted to stick close to strong people. Red hair is definitely a trait of the Uzumaki clan. Kushina's voice warmed with excitement. Her fondness for Seryu grew. Especially since he was so cute. Yes, I am from the Uzumaki clan.